Hey guys, this is going to be the episode 3 of the step-by-step series of learning how to work in Animate. Now in this video I'm going to be covering a few important topics and so first we start off by looking at some of the very important hotkeys, that is the shortcut keys on your keyboard, which come in very handy when you're basically working or animating inside Animate CC, and we'll also be looking at their functions. Second, we are going to be looking at the basic concept of the timeline for those of you who are not very well versed with the concept of timeline. So I'll be just taking a quick look at the timeline. Next, we'll get into the basic concept of animation, like how this whole thing works, right? How the entire animation is going to work. All right, what is animation essentially? Things like that. Next, we get into animating masks, and this is going to be very interesting because we are basically going to take a project and create a GIF animation for social media, and which is going to be essentially the last topic of this video, creating your first GIF animation. All right, so if you're excited, let's get into it. So now, since we know what to expect out of this session, I am basically going to go ahead and start off with the first topic, which is the useful hotkeys and the functions. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by switching off my scope layer, which is basically going to act like a reminder to me so that I can basically stay on track, okay, and not diverge from the topics. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and open up my project layers, which are these, and you can see that I have a logo layer. So if I just zoom out for a second here, I have a text layer and I have an image layer. Okay, so that's my logo layer. Since this was white and we had a white background, so I was not able to see it. All right, so to start off, the first thing that I would like to do is, oh, by the way, this is an image, or should I say that this is the thumbnail for my new series on DSLR photography. So if you're interested in learning DSLR photography from basics, basically it says step-by-step series, learn the right way, because this is what I feel that should be the way to understand the nuances of photography. All right, so my effort in this series is essentially to take you from the bare basics, uh, and I've kept in mind that the technical aspects of the photography come in later. But first, there is a lot more to photography that one should understand. All right, so all that is there on the YouTube channel and on my website also. All right, so let's begin. So back to our session. Now, the first thing that I would like to do is I would like to organize my stuff a little bit here. So I'll just select all the layers by using Shift and then clicking the bottommost layer. So it's going to select all three of them. And then I'm going to just drag this, and or rather a simpler way to do it would be to basically come here and click on this new folder icon. Okay, so I'll just drag this down a little bit, shift select all of them, and then you see that there's this slight insetting going on. So right now I am out of the folder and now I'm inside the folder. This is how it insets inside folder 1. Okay, so now I have one folder which I can twirl on and twirl off, and I can change the visibility all at once. I can lock all the layers all at once, so becomes a little more convenient. So I'm just going to rename this by double clicking on it, and I'm going to call it the design layer. just for convenience sake, and this is my scope layer. So once this is done, I am going to go about talking few of the uh, hotkeys. All right. So the first hotkey is for the selection tool, and which is right here, the first tool itself. Now, the selection tool, it already says that the shortcut key is V. So just remember that V is a very commonly used shortcut. It's a hotkey which is common with all the softwares like Photoshop, Illustrator, and even Animate. All right, so just be aware of that. Going to be handy in a lot of situations. The next key that you should remember about is the Q, and that stands or that represents this guy right here, which is the free transform tool. And every now and then you would need to basically scale up or scale down or rotate or skew. So right now I'm holding down the V key and I'm selecting this, so I cannot really scale it up anyhow. I can just move it. So this is basically going to help me in repositioning elements. Okay, I can change the position and all. But if, let's say for example, you want to change the scale or change the rotation or do some distortions in your graphic, that is basically where the free transform tool is going to come in handy. Okay, so if I just select this and hit the Q key, what I see here is all these 9 handles which are going to give me or tell me of something about it. So I'm going to just I just press the Z key, the Z key, to activate my zoom tool, and I'm just clicking and dragging to focus on that particular area. So that's my logo. And now what I can do is I can just hold down shift and alt, or maybe just shift to scale it center inward or center outward. Or if you hold down alt along with the shift key, you can constrain the scaling from one corner to another. And this can happen in the direction where you want to scale it. Okay, so let's say if I want to scale it this way and I want it to hang around or pivot around this corner, I would just hold down shift and alt and then scale it down that way. Okay, now there is another way to do this same thing. I can change the pivot or the pivot, whatever you want to call it, and just click and drag it and position it on this point here or wherever you want to do it, and then you can do the same thing using shift and then scale it down. And this time around I did not use the alt key. Okay, so that's one thing. Now if you just double click on that, just notice one thing, that if I just after I'm done with the operation or whatever I'm doing, and I want to reset this pivot point back to its default position, I just need to double click on it like that, and it's going to jump right back in the center of the graphic. All right, so that's a really important function right there, going to be very handy when you start animating. Okay, the next key that you should remember is the lasso key, and it's very useful to make some selections, and the shortcut is L and the function is right there. That's the lasso. I am not very sure why or when I would use these two, but still they are there. I feel this is a carryover from Photoshop, but Polygon is basically, Lasso tool is a free selection tool. Essentially you can just drag around and see which area you want to select. So that's that. But then Polygonal tool or Polygon tool is more of a you see this it's going to select in straight lines. Okay, that like that. And then you have magic wand. So magic wand is going to select things which are similar in nature, right? So if I just come here and select anything, that's selecting this right now. So if there is something else that is there which is white, it's going to select that, right? So I'm mostly using the lasso tool, so I recommend memorizing this quite well, because you're going to use it quite often. The next tool that you need to remember is the brush tool. Now, I cannot stress enough on this tool, because the brush tool is going to be your best friend when you're animating in 2D, because this is the tool essentially which gives us most of the powers, right? So whenever you are basically roughing out, or whenever you're trying to do anything in Flash, the brush tool is going to be your friend. So if I just come here, that's your friend right there, and you can just change the colors and right, and plan things. Or right now I am using a graphic tablet. I'm on a Wacom graphic tablet, and I recommend using a graphic tablet when you're animating in 2D or anywhere in 3D even, right? Just get a graphic tablet, because it changes uh, your entire workflow. It gives you a different feel altogether, right? It's like working directly on paper. So, and not to mention that graphic tablets are very affordable these days. Back in the day, I had to invest in a graphic tablet which was quite large, and that was very expensive at that time. But these days you just get a graphic tablet of anywhere around 25 to 3500 rupees. I'm not too sure what that converts to in US dollars, but definitely consider buying a graphic tablet, right? The reason is that it gives you a lot of pressure sensitivity. These are the two options which are again going to be your best friends. If I switch them off, I am going to get this kind of a stroke, but then if I switch this on, I am getting this kind of a stroke, right? So it's very natural, right? And this is on a tilt. So that's the kind of that's what I'm talking about. All right, so definitely consider buying a graphic tablet. I'll post the links uh, of the graphic tablets that you can consider buying, and especially I'll post some links for the budget graphic tablets and a little expensive ones also, right? So yeah, now uh, Z to activate the zoom tool, zoom it in and reposition it. So the next what else is there? Okay, spacebar. So I use the Z key to zoom and then spacebar to pan this around. And this is going to come in handy when you're zoomed in quite a lot and then you want to just see what's there on the side or on the bottom or the top, wherever. All right, comes in very handy. Now zoom out. That's there. But then the next shortcut that you need to remember, and it's very important also, is control or command on a Mac and the question mark key, right? And then when you press that, this snapping window pops up, and this is going to give you access to a lot of snapping variables. All right, you can snap a line, you can snap to grid, you can snap to guides, pixels, objects, and whatnot. A lot of things are there. So every now and then just press command or control question mark, there you are, align it, or grid to, or to guides, or whatever you want to choose. Just say okay and then say okay. Now you can set your defaults also. Let's say if you let me just go ahead and show you how the snapping function works so that you get a hang of it. Why is this so important? Why I'm talking about it so much? Okay, so I'm going to take a new layer, and in fact I'll just take a line here. I'll change the stroke color. Okay, so let's say I have a line, a stroke there. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, and now I want to align a line again here. Align. Now let's say I want to align a line there. Okay, so you see what's happening is that it's automatically magnetically connecting to its other half. Okay, this is the function of snapping. Now if I don't have snapping on, what would happen is that I'll keep on searching where that point is, right? Then I'll have to guess it, and I'll have to zoom in, and then I'll have to again guess it, and I'm still not sure whether it's right on top or not. So activate snap to objects. Okay, and then there. Okay, comes in very handy, so you should be pretty familiar with it. Okay, next up is command or control enter, which is going to basically give you the output of your animation and show you how your output is coming out, Okay, sort of a render, right? You can say that that's a render. So if I just hit command on a Mac, control on a PC, and enter or return, what would happen is it would say that, and it would render out everything that is there on the layers. All right, now one of the important functions is that, see, right now what's happening is that you have the session topics text also coming in, because it doesn't know that you don't want that to appear. However, what you see here is that you have disabled the visibility, but it's still showing up in the render. So now the visibility that you have switched off here, that's the function of the viewport or the stage right here. Now if you want this not to render, right, what you need to do is you need to come here, select the layer, right click and choose guide. And once you switch on the guide mode, what you see is that there is a small hammer here, which is sort of a way of telling us that this is something that, so what you see here is a hammer, which is one way of telling that this is not to be rendered, this is a guide element. All right, but now when we hit command or control enter, what we get is only the elements that we want to be rendered. All right, that's a big one, so just be aware of that. So these are the shortcuts related to the tools section and the outputting of your entire work. Now in the next session I'm going to be talking about the timeline, which is the concept of timeline, which is the part 2 of this session. All right, so see you in the next session.